There we go. All right, so my name is Nicholas Sala, and this is my presentation on the amygdala. Let's get into it. So, the amygdala is just the etymology and name origins for the amygdala actually come from the Latin word amygdala, which is actually comes from the ancient Greek word amygdale, which means almond. The part of the brain known as the amygdala was named so because of its almond-like shape and composition. And let's be real, there are worse foods to be named after, and amygdala is a pretty sweet name. Knowing this, we're going to ask who discovered the amygdala. Well, around the time of the earliest 19th century, Carl Frederick Burdock discovered an almond-shaped mass of gray matter in the interior portion of the mammalian temporal lobe, which he called amygdala. Burdock contributed much to the advancement of neuroanatomy and devoted most of his life to the study of the human brain. And here's a picture of him. Look at that sick lab coat, honestly, folks. Now we're gonna go straight into like the major anatomy of the amygdala. Among this, so the amygdala is made of a cluster of neurons and a large group of nuclei. The basolateral complex, which is the largest of these clusters, is located roughly in the lateral and middle parts of the amygdala. This includes the lateral basal and accessory basal nuclei. The lateral nucleus is the main receiver of input from the sensory cortices, which are the cortical brain regions that represent information about sensory stimuli in all forms. And the amygdala's output can be connected to both the subcortical. The central nucleus of the amygdala is directed to numerous structures that are known to affect autonomical, physiological, and behavioral expression of the emotional state. Where is the amygdala in the brain? Well, the amygdala is located in the medial temporal lobe, which is anterior to the hippocampus. Like the hippocampus, the amygdala is a paired structure. This means that there's more than one located in each hemisphere of the brain. And the amygdala is part of the limbic system, which is a collection of structures that are involved in processing of emotions and memory. Other members of the limbic system include the hippocampus and the hypothalamus. And here's a picture right there. And if you see really closely, this little part right here is the amygdala. And right next to it is the hippocampus, and then you got the hypothalamus, and then you got the thalamus, which I guess is another part of the limbic system. So, what role does the amygdala play in the brain? Well, the amygdala is mostly involved in the processing of emotions and memories that are associated with feelings of fear. Because the amygdala has numerous connections to other structures in the brain, it is able to link to other areas in order to process high cognitive information with systems that are in control of lower functions, mainly autonomic responses such as breathing, touch, and other senses. This link allows the amygdala to organize and prepare physiological responses based on the cognitive information available at the time, the most notable being what we know as the fight or flight response. The fight or flight response, or the amygdala hijack. When our brains receive visual or auditory signals of a threat, like for example, a gunshot or seeing someone get stabbed, the amygdala sends signals to the hypothalamus to produce key hormones to help our body respond to the danger. Cortisotrophin, releasing hormone, or CRH, reduces appetite and increases anxiety and selective attention. It also initiates the release of ACTH from the pituitary gland. Adrenocorticotropic hormone, or ACTH, is a hormone that signals the adrenal glands located at the top of the kidneys to start releasing cortisol. Cortisol is a hormone that is usually referred to as a stress hormone. It's involved with awakeness and alertness, and it increases energy, alertness, immunity, all of which are functions that help with responding to a noticeable threat. Epinephrine or adrenaline is a well known hormone that is released by the adrenal gland, which increases heart rate and respiration rate, which can help you get away from a threat and help your body with energy and getting more oxygen in. So now we have a fight or flight video. The following video details how the fight or fight response works. And
Humans, like all species, have self protective mechanisms to help us survive. Our fight, flight, or freeze survival response, the FFF for short, is designed to mobilize our brain and body to fight an enemy, run from an avalanche, or freeze to hide from a predator. Our brain sometimes misinterprets safe situations as dangerous and can set off false alarms. When the amygdala, our brain's watchdog, senses and barks danger, our body enters survival mode quicker than our rational mind can react, leaving it trying to figure out why we feel in mortal danger. When the FFF alarm is sounded, we start to breathe more quickly and shallow, causing hyperventilation, and our heart starts beating very fast. These changes can cause strong chest pain, which many people interpret as symptoms of a heart attack, when in fact it's just a result of the FFF activation, which can be relieved through breathing exercises. As a way of getting you ready for action, blood is diverted towards the major muscle groups. Blood flows away from our digestive system, causing the bladder to relax, and we might feel the need to pee. The mouth goes dry, nausea can occur, and we get the butterflies feeling in our stomach. Blood also rushes from extremities, leaving us with cold hands, but often sweaty palms as the action-ready body starts sweating to avoid overheating. Legs and hands can start trembling and feel weak, while tension starts building in big muscles like the thighs, neck, and shoulders. In our head, FFF alarms cause our brain to focus on negative memories, probably so it can scan them to avoid danger and negative outcomes. We get tunnel vision as our pupils dilate to increase our focus and long vision, but as a result, we lose our peripheral vision. FFF activation also reduces our ability to recognize differences in facial expressions. Too much oxygen and too little CO2 can result in dizziness or lightheadedness, which many people interpret as signs that they might faint. But because fainting is caused by a drastic drop in blood pressure, and because the FFF increases both our heart rate and blood pressure, it's nearly impossible to faint when this happens. Over time, depression, anxiety, and high levels of stress all harm the brain's ability to slow or cancel false FFF activations, causing them to happen more often. Knowing the symptoms of false activations makes it easier to recognize and reduce their effects. At Tanky Boxing, you can learn both bottom-up and top-down techniques to reduce false FFF activation and bring your...
all right, there we go. So now we're going to ask, are we still learning about the amygdala? And the answer is yes. We are still researching the amygdala and how it impacts human behavior. We have a few examples of modern research towards the amygdala right here. So, for example, we have a Stanford study that found out how stronger one-way fear signals that they found stronger one-way fear signals in the brains of anxious kids. And we can see that right here. So signals from the brain's fear center make it more difficult for anxious and stressed children to regulate their emotions, which is a first of its kind brain scanning study from the Stanford University. We also have a study that provides new insight on the central amygdala, or in a brain region that regulates pain responses, from the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health. They found that nerve cells play opposite roles in modulating pain, and that they show striking differences in structure and electrophysiological function. We also have a study that reveals that the amygdala's role in complex decision making, which may lead to better diagnosis and treatment of mental health disorders. And then we have my sources. So I really hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I really hope you learned a lot more about the amygdala